All right, good morning, everyone. Just going to give it a second while everybody comes in, and then we will get started. All right, looks like the participants number is about steady now, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the info session for the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. We're going to be giving, we'll give it just another minute, and then we'll bring the presentation up on the screen and get going. So all right, I think we're good to go. Happy to see you all here. Welcome. To give a bit of an introduction, my name is Kelly Hadfield, and I am a program manager at Summer Corps, which is the program administrator for the City of Chicago's Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. I'm joined today by my Summer Corps colleague, Ruben Wadi, and on the city side, we have Joshua Sun. We're very pleased to see you all here. So today we're going to be going over, in general, what is the structure of the grant and some things that have changed. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to get this presentation up. Okay, can everybody see this? Okay. So we're going to be going over, like I said, the structure, things that have changed, and if there's any if any additional clarification is needed, we're going to be having a Q&A session at the end, and we'll have all of our contact information available. So a little bit of an overview. We're going to be focusing on what to do before applying. This includes location eligibility, what kinds of projects are eligible, and what kinds of expenses are eligible. We're going to give you a bit of an overview of how applications are evaluated. We'll go through some common application mistakes, eligibility tiers, CDFI assistance, which is something that's new to the program this time around and has a lot to do with financial help. And then we'll finish up with a bit of a step-by-step of how to apply. So, and then these photos on the right here are some of our past projects. So the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, NOF, going forward, is a program of the City of Chicago's Department of Planning and Development, DPD, and it was launched in 2016 to build economically strong and vibrant commercial corridors on the south, southwest, and west sides. The program is funded by the Neighborhood Opportunity Bonus, density bonus fees paid by downtown developers. NOF grants support commercial construction and rehabilitation projects through reimbursement and escrow payments. So we provide funding up to $250,000 for new construction, renovations, or acquisition. Acquisition is only permitted if it's part of a larger construction or renovation project. If you need more information on that, feel free to reach out to us. It gets a little bit tricky, but we can get into that on a case-by-case basis. Once grantees have started paying for construction, assistance can be provided in one of two ways, reimbursement or construction escrow. We accepted projects may be eligible for an additional 20% of their grant amount for NOF approved technical assistance, so project management, architects, that kind of thing. And then competitive selection process based on application details. Grantees are expected to complete their projects within 2 years. Obviously, things change. Could be another pandemic. Who knows? Knock on wood. But that's our goal, is within 2 years. So what's new? NOF has been a bit dormant for a bit, but we are back and better than ever now. We have this technical assistance program that provides additional assistance of up to 20% of their grant amount. Like I mentioned, this assistance is in addition to the grant and may be used to pay for services provided from a pre-selected list of project managers and architects. We're going to get that list up as soon as possible. And for a little bit of information, a little bit of clarification on that too, it can be up to $50,000 if you have the maximum $250,000 grant. But that's the absolute maximum. It depends on like your actual grant amount. It won't be $50,000 off the bat. Another new thing, we increased coverage to 75% from 50%. This will allow for more support for your project than previously. We established a loan loss reserve that, with the assistance of these community development financial institutions, will provide more equitable access to capital. And we will cover some details on those tools later. So who is involved? DPD funds and provides the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. In the meeting right now, that's Josh Sun here. We also have Summer Corps, which is where I work, and my colleague Ruben here. We are the program administrator, and we partner with DPD. We're the primary contact for NOF grantees, so looking forward to meeting some of you, working with you in the future. And we are responsible for assisting managing stewarding projects. So our last partner here are the CDFIs. They're community-based lenders who are dedicated to delivering affordable capital to help low-income people and communities. And the CDFIs will work with NOF participants to develop tailored financial strategies to reach their project completion. Here is some info on our location eligibility. Like mentioned, we cover commercial corridors on the south, southwest, and west sides. They're illustrated here. Our map is available on our website, Chicago.gov/NOF, and it's interactive, so you can search for your specific property address. You could take a closer look at the details of our corridors. And these corridors provide strategic focus on location and ensure collective impact, which that basically means the way that these are chosen, it has to do with, there's a lot of research involved, and these are chosen to most help our projects succeed. So they do change, they're reevaluated every 5 years or so, but I think until 2026, this is going to be our eligible location. What kinds of projects are eligible and ineligible? Eligible, we have commercial property owners with known business uses. We don't take speculative or vanilla box projects. So you have to have, if you are going to rent out the space, you have to have a tenant already. Commercial business tenants with landlord approval, nonprofit organizations providing a revenue generating commercial activity to the public, and nonprofits or businesses building or renovating a cultural establishment. So I know we've had a ton of like theaters, that kind of thing. Ineligible, we don't do residential properties, including home-based businesses and live workspaces. We don't do manufacturing or industrial businesses or properties. It is, again, a case-by-case basis when we're evaluating applications, but we do take on artisan manufacturing, but large-scale industrial practices we can't take on. Also ineligible social services, including workforce development, schools and daycare centers, and then churches and places of worship with no commercial component. Eligible and ineligible expenses we have here. Eligible minor site improvements like fencing or planters, as long as they're part of a larger eligible project. Building acquisition, demolition, and environmental remediation, so like checking the soil for pollutants, that kind of thing. Security measures, roofing, facade, and mechanical system repairs, architectural and engineering fees, HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. And then ineligible, we have minor repairs or improvements that are not part of a larger renovation project. So like painting, if you just apply to get funding for painting, that's not really something we can do, but we can do that if you're rebuilding the whole space and you just want this new space painted. Also ineligible, construction and rehabilitation of residential units or the residential portion of a mixed-use building. That doesn't include exterior. We can cover any kind of improvements to the exterior of a mixed-use building, but the interior of the residential parts, we can't provide any funding for that. Also ineligible, repairs or improvements to bring a building into compliance with the City of Chicago's building code. If it's part of a larger project, that's fine, but if it is primarily just to get up to code, we can't do that either. Also ineligible, operating expenses, including payroll and materials or inventory, and then travel or lodging and hotel expenses. So our structure, the grant provides reimbursements or construction escrows for up to $250,000 for construction, 75% of eligible project hard costs, which different than total project costs. We will look through your work items and determine which ones are eligible versus ineligible. So from that condensed list, that's where your grant comes from, where it's calculated. Hard costs include, but are not limited to, carpentry, mechanicals, painting. We kind of just went over that. So that's the stuff we look for. And then we have an additional $50,000 for TA assistance. And again, they have to be from our pre-selected TA providers list in order for you to qualify for this TA fund. And again, we'll have that list up on our website as soon as possible. All right. The TA program is designed to assist grantees with finding project managers and architects, in addition to the financial assistance. Project managers will handle specific elements of the construction project, and their services include bid letting, permit application, and management or contractor payment documents. And then architects provide construction drawings to the applicant. And our grants are reimbursement based, meaning all payments are already incurred by the owner, and then in stages we will reimburse you. Our eligible expenses. This is a bit of a more detailed breakdown of how we calculate your base grant amount. So your grant amounts are awarded, like I said, based on the eligible project costs. And you should consult and receive a bid from a licensed GC to have an accurate cost estimate. So this chart we have here, just an example, they have this work that's being done, like demolition, masonry, storefront improvements, and all those things are eligible, but they also have furniture, fixtures, and equipment as part of their project plan, but that is not eligible. So out of all of this, the total project cost is going to be $120,000, but the eligible cost is only $100,000. So we'll cover 75% of that. That means the grant will be $75,000. So if there's any questions on that, please feel free to ask. We'll definitely go over that at the end, or you can reach out to any of us. Our contact information will be available at the end. And and these slides will be uploaded to they're already available on our website in English and in Spanish. So you can check those out there if you want to review anything. Everyone, oh man, technical difficulties today. So just pretend that there's 2 more blue boxes over this text.
Kelly, I think this one is a transition slide, so you can just hit next like 2 times. There you go.
Oh, thank you, Josh.
I remember that from last time.
Good looking out. Okay. Everyone is encouraged to apply. our strongest applications will have these aspects. So readiness, projects can demonstrate their projects are ready by providing site control documentation, 50% or more of project financing, by the time that your conditional award letter is issued. That is key. You don't have to have 50% of your financing available at the time of your application. We really encourage you to apply with however much financing you have. We really want to work with you wherever you're at. So don't let that stop you from applying or looking more into the application process. And then a project and loss statement or demonstration of financial stability is included. And I also just want to say site control documentation, that is required. We aren't able to take on any projects where you don't have site control. And by that, we'll need to see a lease. We're asking for a minimum of 5 years. And like it was mentioned previously, we do need to see proof of landlord approval as well. We also accept deeds and then executed purchase and sale agreements. So if you don't have the property yet, or if acquisition is part of your requested grant, we will take an executed purchase and sale agreement. The second section here, realization. Projects can demonstrate they can be fully realized by providing construction and design documents, a detailed project budget and construction timeline, a detailed business plan, and leadership team summary. With that too, on the application, we do require you to submit one construction bid. You are not required, if you get selected into NOF, you're not required to use that bid or to use that GC even, but we do want to see like an official outline of what you're planning. And then the last section here, community impact. Explain how your project will contribute to your community. Incorporate the neighborhood design guidelines in your plans. Submit letters of support from community members and elected officials. Like we get a lot of letters from aldermen. Provide a detailed plan for community engagement and outreach, and introduce yourself and your project to your alderperson. Next, we have some common application mistakes. One of the biggest ones is failure to upload documents that are reference. If you check yes for site control, but then you don't upload a deed or lease, we will see that, or just uploading a blank document for any of the required fields just to get through the application. That is going to make you ineligible if it is a required document. So be careful. Like there's no rush to apply. We're doing a rolling application now. So there is a deadline for February 14th, but the application opens up the very next day. That it just means that it will be a couple months until you are until your application is evaluated, but it will be part of the next round. So no rush. Make sure you have everything that you need rather than just uploading blank stuff. Another common mistake, poor time management, where applicant waits until last minute to submit application, not accounting for potential technology or submission issues. Again, this has to do with your project plan specifically. So like I said, the application will be open the very next day, but if you have all of your bids and your documents for a certain time frame, this could really mess your plan up, and would hate to have you start from scratch again. So that's something to keep an eye on. Another one is incomplete responses, where you answer some but not all of the application questions, and then similar incomplete applications, so leaving them blank. Here is some information on our eligibility tiers. So once your application is submitted, it's reviewed by the NOF team, and we have 3 eligibility tiers. So the first one, you have full eligibility in all the major scoring categories, mainly location, business type, site control, financing, and project readiness. But be aware that even if you are eligible, you still might not be selected for participation in this specific quarter, but we do encourage you to reapply because again, we are very community-based. So if your project isn't, right for this round, it could very well be perfect for a later round. So please don't be discouraged, basically. Our next tier is the pipeline tier, where you have some but not all of the requirements in the scoring categories. Pipeline applicants may be referred to one of our CDFIs for assistance, and then will be encouraged to reapply. So we'll get into some details of that in the next slide. And then our last tier is the ineligible, where for at least one of the major categories, you're just ineligible. But we encourage you to utilize resources to strengthen your proposal and reapply. Location is a big one, but like I mentioned at the beginning, the qualified investment area is reevaluated, so just something to keep an eye on. Okay, CDFI assistance. DPD will identify a select number of CDFI lenders who may assist pipeline applicants with financing strategy. And it goes as follows. Pipeline applicants are referred to a CDFI that is matched based on the needs of the applicant and the CDFI's financing specialty. CDFI lenders work with pipeline applicants towards project financing. So you and the CDFI would work together to determine what's best financially for your project. And if you don't come to an agreement with the CDFI, you may seek the services of another CDFI or secure financing independently. Obviously, you're always able to do that. The CDFI then issues a commitment letter for the pipeline applicant, and once you have that, you may reapply for the NOF program at any time. So here are a couple of examples of our past projects. This is Natural Roots Kids Hair Salon and Spa. They received a grant for about $190,000. This next one, this is Justice of the Pies in Avalon Park. They received the maximum $250,000 grant to renovate their restaurant. And then this is Duo Development. This is a pretty recent project. They also got the maximum $250,000 grant, and they just opened up not too long ago. Now we have some next steps for how to apply. Our application is hosted on submittable.com, so you will have to make an account. Make sure it's an email that you have consistent access to, because if you are selected, that's where we'll contact, or if there's any updates, or if we have any questions, need any clarification, that's probably how we're going to reach out to you first. The applications may be saved as drafts and continued later. So if you want to get started, but like you don't have one document, you can save your application, come back, upload that document when you have it, or finish anything up at any time. You will have to upload all the required documentation, just to give us the most accurate view of your project. Then review your application to ensure accuracy and completeness. Seek assistance with a community partner, which we will have on the next slide. And again, these are available on our website, which is Chicago.gov/NOF. So you can see all of our community partners. And then, as I mentioned before, the next deadline is at 11:59 p.m. on Valentine's Day, February 14th. So some more information on the application period. They are on a rolling basis. We evaluate quarterly. So applicants are encouraged to work with community partners, and like mentioned, they can only be submitted through Submittable, which is submittable.com. And a link to it is on our website as well. Here are our wonderful community partners. They are always willing to help you. We have community partners in all of our areas that we service. So please feel free, and I encourage you to look through and get in contact. And then here is our contact information. The email there, nof at cityofchicago.org. We have been getting an influx of emails now that the application is open, but we will try to get back to you as soon as possible. So please feel free to reach out. If you would like our individual contact information, we can definitely provide that as well. So I will go ahead and leave this up for a second, but I think that we can start the Q&A. And again, if I didn't mention, we can't take video questions, but you can submit them through the text, through the chat.
And is Ruben also available to answer, or is it just gonna be mostly you and me?
I believe Ruben should be available to answer. Ruben is our resident NOF expert, so he is a good person to talk to.
Okay. Here, I'll go ahead and go through a couple of the questions. Hi, do you know when the deadline will be for the next opening for February 15th, 2025? So the new NOF that we're rolling out, we are consistently accepting applications on a rolling basis, which means we do not start and stop accepting applications. You can submit them, but we will establish quarterly deadlines. So for this first round, we've opened up. The next deadline will be February 14th of 2025. We have not established a deadline for the second quarter yet, but for right now, we're consistently accepting applications, so please feel free to submit them. Can you get a letter of support from building owner with the intent to sell to you? In this example, they are still in appraisal process. Let me sit with this for a second. Or Kelly, if you also understand that, then feel free to answer.
Sorry, my computer actually glitched.
Hey guys,
right
I'll
when you
jump
were...
in. Hi everybody, this is Ruben from Summer Corps. I'm the program director for the NOF program and the vice president for Summer Corps. So nice to meet you all. That does not count as proof of site control. I think the question is, does a letter from the landlord with the intent to sell count as proof of site control? That does not. We're looking for a purchase and sale agreement. So something a little bit more formalized, and specifically a purchase and sale agreement that is properly dated with the appraised value and signed by all parties.
All right. Okay, let me see. Let me make sure I'm actually clearing these. Hi, I wanted to ask if my property is eligible. I tried to contact through email and the phone number, but I haven't received a response. So apologies for that. I believe we are working through our emails as we get a ton of emails. So if you want to just hold tight, or feel free to message us your address, Sarah. Hello, thanks for your time. Eligibility question here. We are an established retail business, have leased space for the past 3 years since opening. Would the grant cover the cost of acquisition of a new property to expand product and service offerings as well as eliminate lease expenses?
With that one, we wouldn't be able to cover all of acquisition. It would have to be part of a bigger renovation project, or renovation in this case, but construction or renovation. And we aren't able to contribute more towards acquisition than we are to the construction aspect of the project. I hope that answers your question.
Next, for projects over $250,000, is there still an NOF medium large? On the NOF website, it links you to the CDG site. Correct. So the program that we are speaking on today is known as NOF. We are just focused on projects $250,000 or less. CDG medium and CDG large are the programs that you would look at for any projects that are above like 300,000. So that would be $300,001, I believe. And the NOF, sorry, it's not even NOF medium, it's just called medium and large because they pull from various program funding. So if you followed the criteria for NOF and you needed anything more than $300,000, we would advise you to look at their program. My address is listed as not eligible, but an address that is a part of the same mall building that I am in is listed as eligible. Okay. Dr. LeBranch, if I'll take this down, if you can also respond to us maybe with the best contact information for you, can be in touch. Okay. For previous projects, what has been the quickest and longest timelines from acceptance to completion? Put that to the summer core team.
The quickest has been about 3 months for a smaller build out. The longest has been 7 years. And so part of the application vetting process is finding projects that aren't going to take 7 years. And so that's why we're emphasizing a 2-year timeline from the time that you apply to the time that the grant is completed.
Okay. If your address is showing up on the map as ineligible, is there any chance that eligible corridors will be modified? Thanks. So I believe, as Kelly mentioned, the map has usually been updated every 5 years or so. So currently what you see right now is eligible, but there is a chance that in the future, those eligibility criteria, the geography may change. So just stay posted on that for every new round that happens. Can you explain the construction escrow option? Ruben, do you want to take that?
The construction escrow option is where you deposit your funds into a construction escrow, and then we deposit our funds into escrow, and then from there we pay the contractor. So I know that some of our marketing says that this is a reimbursement grant, and that's true, but escrow isn't necessarily reimbursement. So when you apply, you should have a pretty good idea as to which route that you're wanting to go. There isn't necessarily a place on the application where you declare that, but just keep that in mind that we have those two options, and you can reach out to me if you have more questions about it. But through escrow, the contractor is paid directly. So that's the main difference between reimbursement and escrow. Reimbursement, you get paid for paying the contractor. Escrow, the contractor gets paid.
And let's also reiterate that escrow is an account that is a third-party neutral account. So it's neither the grantee's account nor our account. It's a joint neutral account that is used to sort of disseminate funds. Will we be notified if we are not selected? Ruben, has that happened in the past?
You will be notified if you're not selected. We'll do our best to make sure that there's a specific reason. Do keep in mind that if we get a ton of volume of applications, it's going to be a little bit harder to reach out to everybody individually. But the goal is to hopefully let people know why they weren't selected as much as possible.
All right, the next question. Are interviews conducted at any point during the process?
All right, I'll answer the questions from here. So, interviews are not conducted throughout the life of the application. Sorry, when you're applying, there's not necessarily an interview process. But let's say that we've made it, through the application process, and we've determined that your application could potentially be eligible and a good fit, but there are some things that need clarification. Maybe there's something that we need to determine about the parcel that you're located in. We might reach out to you for questions about that. But there's not going to be like a formal interview where we're asking you specific questions and then like scoring, and then scoring based off those questions. All right, next question, please.
Right. If we are only in need of upgrading our entire electrical system, very old buildings, would we be able to apply for this work alone?
We prefer that you would have some exterior component to the work. Now, let's say that this old building has a nice facade and doesn't need renovations, but you would really like to retrofit your the electrical work. We could take that into consideration, depending on the number of competitive applications we have. That one could potentially be selected. But we like to focus on projects that have multiple work items as opposed to one, but we have indeed worked on projects that have had just one work item. So what I'm trying to say is I encourage you to apply. We would prefer if there was an external component, but we can always look at an application and select it based off the merit of the project itself. Next question, please.
If property is assumed at tax sale, how does it work?
Repeat that question.
If property is assumed at tax sale, how does it work?
I don't think I'm understanding the question, but if you're saying that if the property is under a tax sale, that tax sale needs to transpire, and whoever the buyer is, they can apply for the grant. If you are just looking to apply for the grant that is pending a tax sale, but the tax sale hasn't completed, then it won't be eligible. Ultimately, we're looking for site control. So if you did get the property in a tax sale and you have assumed full ownership, and what have you. Granted, property taxes are something that we look at. So if the property taxes remain an issue after the tax sale, more than likely we're not going to select it for consideration. And all that information is very easily accessible, so we'll know if there's outstanding tax issues. But what we more or less care about is whether or not the property is deeded to the person that is applying, or is just, properly deeded in the first place. Next question, please.
Can we use the funds for bars, specifically if you are taking over a previous bar?
Yes, we don't have restrictions on bars and taverns. Now, if the bar is more of a nightclub, no. But we'll look at the merit of the application. With bars, especially, there's normally, evidence of activity, at the bar. A lot of bars have a reputation within the community, good, bad, happy, sad. Those are things that we look at when it comes to bars, but they're not outright ineligible. We do tend to be cautious with them just to make sure that, we're not funding a nightclub with city funds. Next question.
Well, and again, we also look at the context in which a business is in the community, right? So we're looking at community impact as a way of making our decision. So keep that in mind. Next question is, if the applicant has everything in place, contractor, site control, financing, how fast can the city move through the process? Typical timeline?
That's all up to you. So let's assume that you get selected after applying. Uh, and day one, you're given the documents, the legal documents and all that. As long as you're filling things out quickly and sending them in quickly, and more importantly, making corrections quickly, then the process moves as fast as you do. It's great if you have site control and an idea of the project and a GC. Those are all great, but where people tend to get tripped up is actually making corrections to the documents. For whatever reason, sometimes they think they filled it out correctly and they're just annoyed that they have to make some corrections that they don't feel like they have to make. Yeah, the process moves as fast as you do. Like I said, the fastest NOF project is in the realm of 3 months. ish, not counting the amount of time it took to review the actual application. It was a smaller scale project, about $50,000, $60,000. It wasn't a gut rehab. They followed the rules, they turned in the paperwork, and they got the grant. So it's fairly simple. Where projects tend to really take a long time is if the rules aren't followed, and especially during the reimbursement process where I might ask for a revision to a single sheet of paperwork that should take no more than 5 minutes. Sometimes those corrections can take about a week for whatever reason. So yeah, as long as you're diligent and you're just filling out the paperwork that we ask, the process moves as fast as you do. Next question, please.
If the purchase and sale agreement specifies site control in April 2025, does this make the app ineligible?
Not necessarily, but we will absolutely be making sure that that purchase and sale agreement, the closing has happened after selection by the time we ask for the closing to happen. And that's normally right before issuance of the conditional award letter. And we're going to be asking for the standard property closing documents, the titles recorded in the deed and all that. And if this is being purchased through a lender, their closing documents and promissory note. So yeah, let's say if you apply for this intake round with a deadline of February, but the deadline for closing is April, you can still be selected for potential participation during that first intake period with your purchase and sale agreement with a closing date in the future. We will just be asking you to hold true to that closing date. And if you start asking for extensions like, oh, well, April turned to December, that's when applications tend to get removed.
All right. Is it true that the NOF is no longer handling the large grants? I think that it is awesome that the reimbursement amount increased to 75%. Does that mean you don't have to live in the opportunity zone anymore to get that extra 25%? I can answer the first half of that question. So as mentioned previously, NOF large and medium grants are around, and they will handle projects that require funding of $300,001 or above. So there are still opportunities for that. We will just be focusing on project costs that are under $300,000, but specifically $250,000. Sorry. And then Ruben, do you want to talk about the opportunity zone and the 25% that they're referencing?
So the opportunity zone, for talking about the local owner bonus, that's kind of been retrofitted into the grant going from 50% base to 75% base. So we're not really looking at the local owner bonus anymore. Do keep in mind that while we do have an eligibility map, that could potentially change or could stay the same by next year. And some of the savvier ones, especially if you've been familiar with NOF for a few years, you might have noticed that on our old website, we had the qualified investment area map in yellow, clearly demarcating the QIA. And it doesn't exist on our current website. That's because we're currently retrofitting it to make sure that it matches with NOF. So we'll probably be posting the revised QIA map, but that QIA map isn't necessarily to see if you're going to be a local owner. What we do is we look at somebody's permanent address or home address that they put on their application, and then we see if their address is located within the QIA, and then we make a note of it as we are reviewing applications. So that is what the local owner bonus has turned into.
Can I use the grant to acquire properties from land bank?
Land bank sales tend to take a long time. So if it's an imminent sale, we can look at it. But if you just started conversations with CCLBA, probably not.
Will this grant work for residential only? No, there needs to be a commercial component or a revenue generating program to it. Next, we are an established retailer looking to expand into one of the communities on your map, but we are also NPO and social service WFD and would look at offering WFD services out of the retail site. Would this make us ineligible? I'm not sure what the acronym stands for. Ruben or
Workforce
Kelly?
development.
Okay. An NPO?
Not
Nonprofit
entirely sure. Nonprofit organization,
organization?
actually.
Okay.
There has to be a commercial component to every project. So you can be a nonprofit organization as long as you have a commercial component associated with it. You can get the grant. A good example is Wings on 63rd, or is it 67th? But I think on 63rd Street, maybe 3513 West 63rd. They're a domestic violence shelter, clearly a nonprofit, but they applied for their retail component to their shelter and were able to secure the grant that way. So you can be an MPO, you can be a workforce development organization as long as there's a commercial component. Typically, me personally, I've never seen a workforce development organization that has a commercial component. But yeah, that's our criteria for stuff like that.
And then I'm seeing, okay, contact information. We received an NOF in 2021. Can we reapply? Thank you.
Yes.
Is the 75% of the total amount of project, I'm assuming project cost, such as if the project takes $350,000, but we are just looking for 250,000. So I mean, if I'm assuming if you're saying if the project costs are $350,000, then you can only obtain up to 75% of $350,000. So it's going to be whatever is less.
That's
Do you
correct.
have, sorry,
I was just saying that's correct.
do you have to use a city pre-qualified architect to work on your project?
You do not. We are going to develop a list of TA architects that you can choose from, but you do not have to select them. The architect doesn't need to be based in the city of Chicago. They don't even need to be based in Illinois or the United States. The GC requirement, they have to be licensed by the city, but we don't have the same requirements necessarily for architects. But of course, local architects are probably better suited to handle projects in Chicago than those that are not local.
I do also want to reiterate, this program is only for projects that are located within the city of Chicago. So just within the city boundary of Chicago. All right, next question. Can a house of worship that deals with both community and church apply?
As long as there's a commercial component, it can apply. So maybe you want to do an event center, or maybe you want to have a retail space. But if it's just building out the space and the space's only function is as a worship center, then it's not going to be eligible.
Is there any hindrance or restrictions on startups?
Not necessarily. We are definitely doing our best to make sure that we look at all the details that a startup company provides within the application. Historically, startups have struggled with the NOF grant because it's insanely hard to start a business. So let alone finance the construction and then finance everything else after construction. One thing that startups always need to think about is, even if you have the money for construction, what is life like after that? And especially if you only have money for construction, but you don't have any money reserved for overhead, equipment, wages, and things like that. We want the startup to actually succeed after construction. We don't just want to build out a space for the startup and they get licensed and everything is great. And then 3 months later, they shut down. We want the business to actually be of benefit to the community. We want it to be profitable, or at the very least, we want them to be in a position where they can break even for a while before they actually start making profit. So that's the sort of thing that we'll be looking at. That's why it's mandatory for startups to provide a business plan and strategic plan. Either it's 2 documents or 1 document. Lots of startups in the past have applied without the business plan. But if you can't plan the business, then the grant probably isn't the first thing you should be thinking about. So all this to say, startups can apply, but we are definitely wanting to make sure that startup is set up to succeed after the grant is complete.
All
Next
right.
question, please.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
I was just saying next question.
All right, we have about 8 minutes left, so we only have 1, 2, 3, 4 questions that we'll get through. Okay, and then eligible expenses security measures. Does this include exterior rolling security shutters?
Absolutely.
Great. Um, if your property is ineligible because of the location, are there opportunities available to small business owners in the suburbs? Again, potentially, we are only focused on the city of Chicago, so it'll be up to you to figure out, which location your project is in, and then see if the local municipality has any programs available to you. If I obtained, sorry, if I obtained full site control last year for a startup business during a previous application round, am I able to submit that lease agreement from previous years?
I'm sorry, repeat the question one more time.
If I obtained full site control last year for a startup business during a previous application round, am I able to submit that lease agreement from previous years?
Oh, sorry. Yes, you are. Now we will be tracking the lease. So typically, especially if a project goes on for too long, and the lease expires, we'll be asking for an updated version of the lease with updated dates. But yes, you can, if the lease is still active, you can use it to apply for another grant as long as the lease is active.
All right. Just want to confirm, will a ABA clinic be eligible for NOF funding? I'm not sure what ABA stands for.
Me neither.
Okay. Oh, Applied Behavior Analysis Clinic.
I don't know. I'd have to look into that more. I'm sorry.
Mhm. Again, you can always apply or feel free to reach out, email the email address that you see on your screen, and we can sort of talk into more detail. Last question, who determines a local owner area for the bonus, since it still may be used to determine the 75%? I found that a home in the same zip code or ward as the business can be determined not eligible on one block, and on the very next block, a different home is. How often is map updated?
Um, yeah, if we're talking about the same map, because you might be referring to the corridor map, but which is live right now. But if you are indeed talking about the old NOFQIA map, there's been many instances over the years of the program where somebody applies and their project isn't even 2 blocks away. It's actually like across the street, right? And it's just ineligible, unfortunately. It could be 10 blocks away, it could be 100 feet away, it's ineligible. Now, like I said, we are potentially updating the map to include more areas, so be on the lookout for that. But even if we did update that map, it's still going to have areas of Chicago that are a block away that are ineligible. So that's just kind of the reality of it.
All right, and I believe the last question that we'll take today, which is not clear, if you awarded that and Brick Garage is already done, can you get reimbursed?
If the project is already complete by the time you apply, can you get reimbursed is how I'm interpreting it? The
Yeah.
answer would be no. We have selected projects that are in progress, and maybe they've been in progress for about a month or two. But if the project is done, then it won't be selected for consideration.
Okay, I think that covers all the Q&A. Kelly, do you want to take us out?
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us today. And again, please reach out with any questions. We will work with you one-on-one as best we can.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everybody.